In this edition of Back in History, we present to you the speech of Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba on the day of the grant of independence to the DR Congo by the Belgium. In the said speech, Patrice Lumumba was unsparing of the atrocities that had been committed against his people by Belgium. While other officials in attendance were able to hide their feelings, Patrice Lumumba did not hide his own. Patrice himself had suffered a series of arrest and detention, along with other independence advocates. He had also seen how many of his countrymen and women had been subjected to torture, inhuman and degrading treatment in the hands of the colonial masters. The DR Congo eventually gained independence after much struggle, and on the day of the formal pronouncement of the independence of the country, Patrice Emery Lumumba poured out his mind in the full glare of his people, the representatives of the Belgian government, and the international press that covered the events. Before Lumumba's speech, King Baudouin of Belgium, who was in attendance at the Independence Day celebration, addressed the gathering and ended his speech with an admonition to the new leaders of the Congo in the following words, quote, "Do not compromise the future with hasty reforms, and do not replace the structures that Belgium has handed over to you until you are sure you can do better. Do not be afraid to come to us. We will remain by your side and give you every needed advice." End of quote. The king, clad in his best attire for the day's event, then resumed his seat and was appreciated by the new president of the country, President Joseph Kasavubu. There and then, Lumumba, the new prime minister, made an impromptu speech and reminded the audience that the independence of Congo had not come to them magnanimously by Belgium as they are made to believe. He delivered a speech that Belgium took personal and did not forgive him for the rest of his life. The speech went as follows, quote, "Men and women of the Congo, victorious independence fighters, I salute you in the name of the Congolese government. I ask all of you, my friends, who tirelessly fought in our ranks to mark this day, June 30, 1960, as an illustrious date that will be ever engraved in your hearts, a date whose meaning you will proudly explain to your children so that they in turn might relate to their grandchildren and great-grandchildren the glorious history of our struggle for freedom. For this independence of the Congo, although being proclaimed today by agreement with the Belgium, an amicable country with which we are on equal terms, no Congolese worthy of the name will ever be able to forget that it was by fighting that it has been won, a day-to-day fight, an ardent and idealistic fight, a fight in which we were spared neither privation nor suffering, and for which we gave our strength and our blood. We are proud of this struggle, of tears, of fire, and of blood, to the depths of our being, for it was a noble and just struggle, and indispensable to put an end to the humiliating slavery which was imposed upon us by force. He went on to say, still in quote, "That was our lot for the 80 years of colonial rule, and our wounds are too fresh and much too painful to be forgotten. We have experienced forced labor in exchange for pay that did not allow us to satisfy our hunger, to clothe ourselves, and to have decent lodgings, and to bring up our children as dearly loved ones. Morning, noon, and night we were subjected to jeers, insult, and blows because we were Negroes. We have seen our land seized in the name of ostensibly just laws, which gave recognition only to the right of might. We have not forgotten that the law was never the same for the white and the black, that it was lenient to the ones and cruel and inhuman to the others. We have experienced the atrocious sufferings, being persecuted for political convictions and religious beliefs and exiled from our native land. Our lot was worse than death itself. We have not forgotten that in the cities the mansions were for the whites and tumble-down huts for the blacks, that a black was not admitted to the cinemas, restaurants, and shops set aside for Europeans, that the black traveled in the holds under the feet of the whites in their luxury cabins. Lumumba continued, still in quotes, "Who will ever forget the shootings which killed so many of our brothers, or the cells into which were mercilessly thrown those who no longer wished to submit to the regime of injustice, oppression and exploitation used by the colonialists as a tool of their domination. All that, my brothers, brought us untold suffering. But we, who were elected by the votes of your representatives of the people, to guide our native land, we who have suffered in body and soul from the colonial oppression, we tell you that henceforth all that is finished with. The Republic of the Congo has been proclaimed, and our beloved country's future is now in the hands of its own people. Brothers, let us commence together a new struggle, a sublime struggle that will lead our country to peace, prosperity, and greatness. Together we shall establish social justice and ensure for every man a fair remuneration for his labor. We shall show the world what the black man can do when walking in liberty, and we shall make the Congo the pride of Africa. We shall see to it that the lands of our native country truly benefit its people. We shall revise all the old laws and make them into new ones that will be just and noble. We shall stop the persecution of free thought. We shall see to it that all citizens enjoy to the fullest extent the basic freedoms provided for by the Declaration of Human Rights. We shall eradicate all discrimination, whatever its origin, and we shall ensure for everyone a station in life befitting his human dignity and worthy of his labor and his loyalty to the country. We shall institute in the country a peace resting not on guns and bayonets, but on concord and goodwill." He continued, still in quote, "And in all these, my dear compatriots, we can rely not only on our own enormous forces and immense wealth, but also on the assistance of the numerous foreign states, whose cooperation we shall accept when it is not aimed at imposing upon us an alien policy, but is given in a spirit of friendship. Even Belgium, which has finally learned the lesson of history and need no longer try to impose our independence, is prepared to give us its aid and friendship. For that end, an agreement has just been signed between our two equal and independent countries. I am sure that this cooperation will benefit both countries. For our part, we shall, while remaining vigilant, try to observe the engagement we have freely made. Thus, both in the internal and external spheres, the new Congo being created by my government will be rich, free, and prosperous. But to attain our goal without delay, I ask all of you legislators and citizens of the Congo to give us all the help you can. I ask you all to sink your tribal quarrels. They weaken us and may cause us to be despised abroad. I ask you all not to shrink from any sacrifice for the sake of ensuring the success of our grand undertaking." He then ended his speech, still in quotes. "Finally, I ask you unconditionally to respect the life and property of fellow citizens and foreigners who have settled in our country. If the conduct of these foreigners leaves much to be desired, our justice will promptly expel them from the territory of the Republic. If, on the contrary, their conduct is good, they must be left in peace, for they too are working for our country's prosperity. The Congo's independence is a decisive step towards the liberation of the whole African continent. Our government, a government of national and popular unity, will serve its country. I call on all Congolese citizens, men, women, and children to set themselves resolutely to the task of creating a national economy and ensuring our economic independence. Eternal glory to the fighters for national liberation. Long live independence and African unity. Long live the independent and sovereign Congo." End of quote. The speech was delivered to its very last letter, after which the day's event drew to a close. But one thing was obvious. The King of Belgium, who was in attendance at the Independence Day celebration with his entourage, was not happy with the speech. For him and for Belgium as a whole, Patrice Lumumba had crossed some red lines with the speech, and in the days ahead, Patrice would lose the support of Belgium, even as he would struggle with centrifugal forces at home and from abroad to steady the ship of his government. The journalists in attendance were shocked at such audacity from Patrice Lumumba. Lumumba was roundly criticized by the media, and the Time magazine, for instance, described his speech as, quote, venomous attack. Lumumba was a die-hard Pan-Africanist, and for him, the reaction to his speech did not matter. Patrice Lumumba was roundly applauded by his countrymen and women for such a speech. His courage in speaking the truth without fear was highly appreciated across the country. Many analysts are, however, of the view that this speech was the beginning of the journey of hate that would eventually consume the life and political career of Patrice Lumumba. Lumumba had a turbulent time in government. He contended with many forces throughout his stay in power. Soldiers staged mutinies in military barracks from time to time and caused huge destruction to his government. At the Katanga region, for instance, there was more of a parallel government going on there. Lumumba did his best to steady the ship of governance. He was an amiable person and was deeply loved by many ordinary citizens of the country. He was soon overpowered by the forces that mounted against him. The situation went on unabated, and there was in reality a serious political impasse in the country. On September 14, Colonel Mobutu Sese Seko, then Chief of Army Staff, announced over the radio that he was launching, quote, a peaceful revolution to end the political impasse in the country. He stated that from henceforth, the military and Congolese graduates will govern the country while the politicians sort out their differences. The situation did not improve. Lumumba still held out himself as the man in power and remained in his official residence. He also made efforts to have a conversation with Mobutu, to no avail. In November of the said year, Lumumba was arrested. In June 2020, Lumumba's daughter Julian Lumumba wrote a letter to Philippe, King of the Belgians, and appealed for, quote, the return of the relics of Patrice Emery Lumumba to the ground of his ancestors. She described her father in the said letter as, quote, a hero without a grave. She queried why, after his terrible murder, her father remained condemned to remain a wandering soul without a grave to shelter his eternal rest. On 10th September of the said year, 2020, a Belgian judge ruled that Lumumba's remains, which then consisted of his tooth, must be returned to his family. In May 2021, the Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi announced that plans have been concluded with Belgium for the repatriation of the last remains of Lumumba. In June 2022, the remains of Patrice Lumumba were officially handed over to his children during a ceremony at Egmont Palace in Brussels, Belgium, by the country's federal prosecutor. The Prime Minister of Belgium, De Croo, apologized on behalf of the Belgian government for the country's role in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. He stated thus, in quote, for my part, I would like to apologize here in the presence of his family for the way in which the Belgian government influenced the decision to end the life of the country's first Prime Minister. End of quote. Lumumba's only remaining tooth was then put in a full-sized casket, draped in the Congolese national flag, for African diaspora of Belgium to pay their last respect. Lumumba was then flown back to his country of birth, Congo, where his remains were interred in Kinshasa on Thursday, 23rd June 2022. Despite his short reign as Prime Minister of the Republic of Congo, Patrice Lumumba was seen as an iconic figure, a true patriot, a nationalist, and a passionate lover of his people. He was uncompromising and was loved by many across the globe. He was seen as a courageous man. His downfall was viewed as highly detrimental to the wave of African nationalist movement at the time. Lumumba was indeed caught in the midst of centrifugal forces at home and abroad, all of which worked together to bring his rule to an end and to finally bring his life to an end. Patrice Lumumba was born on 2nd July 1925. He was born in the Katakokombe region of the Kasai province of the then Belgian Congo. He attended mission-run schools in the DR Congo. Lumumba was seen by many as an intelligent fellow. He was a leader in several circles and held strong views on Pan-Africanism and worked assiduously in seeing to an end to colonial rule in Africa. In no time, Lumumba had a large following due to his personal charisma, excellent oratory, and ideological sophistication. He took special interest in the Enlightenment ideas of revolutionaries like Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Victor Hugo. He wrote extensively, and most of his works had anti-imperialist themes. The memory of Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba shall remain in the hearts of many in the DR Congo and across the continent of Africa and the world for many more years to come. For many, Patrice Lumumba remains a martyr whose memory shall never be forgotten. Thanks for watching this edition of Back in History, and do remember to subscribe to the channel or follow the page for regular notifications. I remain your friend and host Ekemi Newdim, wishing you the best of time as you continue to journey with me in this mission to document and preserve the history of Africa in contemporary digital forms.